But speaking of sad things and or depressing items, what is this I hear about Hulk Hogan making children cry, Brian?
Yeah, in the last day or so, a number of people have sent this in. I have a few different things here. Let me click on this article. This is from News 12, The Bronx. Kids were crying.
Does the Bronx have its own television station now?
Well, News 12, The Bronx. That's for Bronx Cable. News 12 is owned by, well, it used to be Cablevision. Now it's whatever, Optimum. But it was owned by them, so wherever they had Cablevision, you got News 12. And then they tried to make it a big selling point, like, if you get DirecTV or something, you won't get News 12. But no one gave a shit. But News 12, The Bronx.
Because it's just cable news. Yeah, but go ahead.
It's just a place to eat up a bunch of local Emmys. Like if you want to like do something to boost your ego before you try to make it at NBC or something. But News 12, The Bronx, kids were crying. Hulk Hogan accused of leaving fans stranded at beer tour event in Montgomery.
In Montgomery, Alabama?
I don't think so.
Where Montgomery where?
Montgomery, Orange County, New York.
I didn't even know there was a Montgomery, New York, but the people are stranded there, so now it's getting some attention.
Some disappointed Hulk Hogan fans say they were turned away empty-handed last week after standing in line and waiting for hours for a promised meet and greet with the entertainment icon in Orange County. Orange is one of the colors that Hulk Hogan doesn't have a problem with. Let's hear, we have some audio here from News 12, The Bronx.
Yes, make sure we play these award-winning Emmy artists here.
Let's go to this.
Some disappointed Hulk Hogan fans say that they were turned away empty-handed last week after waiting for hours for a promised meet and greet with the entertainment icon in Orange County. Our Blaze Gomez tells us why from Montgomery, one of the towns that the superstar has toured.
I was there with my son and daughter. It was an exciting day, especially for my son.
A super fan's dream.
They said that, he could only see up to number 200. We were 185.
Turned into a disaster for 42-year-old Robert Taylor and his two young kids last Wednesday.
You're the worst. Why did you do that?
Well,
when
hold on, let me stop it there.
Was that the kids cussing at Hulk Hogan? You're the worst.
It's apparently from the car right after they got turned away. It's the two kids in the back seat. I'm guessing the father filming them, giving a message to Hulk Hogan, and that was the two kids commenting on that. Jimmy Hart's in these photos, so he was there.
Oh, poor Jimmy again. He's now wherever he appears, he gets residual heat because people are so mad at his balding icon of a friend there. But
I got an idea. We'll get everyone to forget about LA. We'll go on a beer tour. No one will talk about that anymore.
They were only going to see 200 people. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot for a big star, but when you think about it, if he spent a minute with everybody, that'd still be 3.5 hours. I assume he's probably not spending a minute with everybody, but at the same time, you got to expect when you agree to do one of these things, there's going to be a halfway decent sized crowd show up. Maybe, I don't know, with him anymore. So you would think they would be prepared and they wouldn't be just cutting it off like that and leaving everybody hanging. But do go on.
Let's go back to this report from News 12 The Bronx by Blaze Gomez. What a great name that is. Back to the kids upset with Hulk Hogan.
Dad says they waited 4 hours with a promise to see their WWE idol, Hulk Hogan, at ShopRite in Montgomery, only for the superstar to allegedly leave mid-event.
It was really quick. They just stood up, the whole group, and bolted towards the back. Some lady was, pretty upset, screaming and cursing. My son starts hysterically crying. A bunch of other kids are crying.
Hogan had a busy schedule and didn't just stop here. Hogan toured about a half a dozen locations in the Hudson Valley to promote his new beer brand that looked wild.
Let me pause this for a second because they showed him at another ShopRite, apparently, which is a supermarket chain up here in the Northeast. And then they showed him seemingly serving a barrel of beers to people at a bar. So he was just hitting
a barrel of beers at a bar.
Well, he had a tub of beers, I guess, and he was just walking up to the bar to hand them to people. So apparently he was really hitting all the big locales to promote this beer. Let's go back to this.
Well, but hold on. I was just about to say, it sounded like when they said they waited 4 hours, it sounded like they were running late from the start of the thing. And then somebody just, oh shit, we got to get to another thing. And they just jumped up and took off, leaving these people standing there with Pete in hand. And it sounds like a mismanaged and, behind the 8-ball fucking schedule they had to begin with.
Let's go back to Blaze Gomez, News 12.
Wildly successful in these videos he shared.
Today is Hulk Hogan Day.
Dutchess County Executive Sue Serino declared last Tuesday Hulk Hogan Day to commemorate his appearance in Poughkeepsie. But clearly,
And we got nothing.
Broke these kids' hearts.
not everyone had a good time.
If he had to leave, maybe he could have walked down that line and at least shook people's hands and said, hey, I'm sorry, we got to get going, rather than just leaving people stranded.
Will you try again if he goes on tour locally?
Probably not.
In Montgomery, Blaze Gomez, News 12.
Thank you, Blaze.
Now, we tried to
And
reach
now-
out to Hogan's publicist about the complaints from Taylor and others, but we have yet to hear back.
All right, well, Hulk Hogan ducking the issue. This major story. It's
Oh,
one
my
guy and his
God.
2 kids, and he's the one who filmed them upset, and then he's the only person talked to in the story. What do you think of all this?
Well, there may be some element of that, but at the same time, it sounds like that they were behind to begin with. They got there. They're going to, if they were supposed to do 200, then they should have, if this guy was 180, whatever the fuck. I never, when I would agree to do an autograph appearance, and I'm not a big star, I just got in the movies here this past week. But I would never say a specific time. It's okay because it's whoever makes the effort to show up, unless, it was advertised for 2:00 and somebody's wandering in at 5:00 and you've just finished and you're packing up, and that's, a different story. But if there's people in line, you need to, accommodate them. Except if you're booked to go and there's fucking 200 people waiting somewhere else that you're supposed to start in an hour and you're 2 hours away, or whatever the fuck their deal was. But they should have made some concession for the rest of the people in that line of the 200 they said they were going to see. Free pictures, like the guy said, the handshake or whatever. Because if you promised hungry people a fucking meal and you see a bunch of people eating in front of you while you're standing in line, and then they pull all the fucking food up and tell you, I'm sorry, you're going to be even more pissed because you've been watching the goddamn people eat, right? So if he's been in front of everybody and they've been standing there in line and then they just get up and leave, no wonder even one guy's pissed or whatever. So I would think they would have been able to handle that better, to me.
Do you think Hulk Hogan, even if he's behind schedule, should be a little hypersensitive to things like this, considering he's had so much negative publicity around him and he's trying to launch a new beer brand?
Well, yes, and to say, was that the thing when the kids filed through? Did they get an autograph picture and a can of fucking hooch from the Hulkster? The kids at the beer thing, Bruno would have never gone for that. They wanted to go with that Bruno beer, and he said, no.
Bruno wouldn't drink wine in a restaurant if there were kids in the restaurant.
Exactly, because he didn't want them to see their hero drinking alcohol. That's why when he turned down the Bruno beer, they gave it to the president's brother in 1976.
Hulk Hogan's handing him out. Here.
Yeah, here, take a swig of this. It'll make life much better. But again, you would think that, yes, to answer your question, he would be cognizant somewhat of the negative publicity, but also that his people you can't just dangle a guy out there and while you're standing in line, or you got fans standing in line, he's out there doing this and suddenly he jumps up when you're supposed to be included. It's, I assume that since this was a promotional tour, I don't know if there was a charge or not. They didn't say one way or the other. But
that would have made it a completely bigger thing, I think. If people paid for it.
that would have made it a bigger thing if they, but if you if you say you're going to do 200 and you're numbering people, then that gives them the right to be awfully pissed off if they don't get what they're supposed to get.
They must have known they were going to have to leave at a certain point if they all just abruptly got up and left. Do you do something, even if Hogan's not going to get up because of his condition? Like, he's not good moving around more than he has to.
Well, goddamn, he's not a fucking wheelchair.
No, but he's had a lot of issues with his back and his legs and everything else. He's not someone who should be walking more than he has to, maybe to walk a line. But if you have Jimmy Hart there, do you say like, hey, we're going to have to cut out early. Go work the line a little bit and apologize to people and let them get a picture with you?
Well, wait a minute. Poor Jimmy is left behind in Poughkeepsie or wherever, goddamn, it was Hulk Hogan Day or whatever, when they're going to the next thing. We don't know where they were going, and Jimmy doesn't want to move to fucking New York State, probably. But yes, again, bring the rest of the people up at a group of 30. How many were they short? We don't know, but bring them up in a group and let him stand up, take a group picture and say, hey guys, we're running behind, but I've signed these extra 30 pictures, and talking to Jimmy's megaphone, toot, toot, and just something. And off we go. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience standing in fucking line. You can't just leave while people are standing there staring at you. You know that they're going to get pissed.
Instead, you get 4-year-olds cutting promos on you while they're crying.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate you, Hulk Hogan. He created the next generation of super villains right there. That kid, one of those kids, is going to be a super villain, and this is the origin story. This is where his life pivots to serve evil.
Or perhaps a superhero if they're fighting Hulk Hogan.
Well, that's true. The lines are blurred a little bit these days. You never know who's on whose side.